You can join wood parts together in any number of ways. I mean, you can use domino, loose tenons, you can use pocket holes, but I think probably the cheapest and quickest and least costly way to join parts together is just to use dowels. There's multiple different kinds of dowel joints out there that I've used over the years. This is a self-centering one that is, really doesn't self-center very well. It's off. And it's also very difficult to set, to drill a dowel right on the line, because these little marks down here are really hard to see. They're kind of embedded in here, and they're actually off. They're not even accurate. So this thing has not been used much. It's sitting in my drawer. This is a Jessam doweling jig I bought years ago, probably 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. It was fairly expensive. It was probably a couple $100 back then. Solid aluminum. It's a heavy beast. It can do a million things. It can put dowels in the end. It can put dowels on the side. It can put dowels on the this face of a board. It's just a little more than I need most of the time. I do use it, but most of the time I just need to do simple dowels. I don't pull it out. So what I like to use for just real basic doweling are these dual hole doweling jigs. Consists of two parts. It's got a metal base here that's hardened so it won't wear out. It's got two holes in it. These holes accept a drill. And it has a face on here, or fence I call it. It's a plexiglass fence. The fence does two things. It allows you to clamp your piece. You can put a clamp on here very easily and hold it in place where you want it. But also, more importantly, it has these lines on here. There's a line here for the center, a center line, and there's a line, a little engraved line where the center of each hole. So what you can do is you can take your part and you can just mark it. You can just take it here and just mark it. You don't even have to measure. You can just kind of eyeball the center, and then I can line this center line up with that mark, and then I can drill my holes. And then I can go over here, and I can also line up my center hole and do it here. So remember, when you use the fence and you're referencing off the same face on both parts, it'll line up perfectly. So that's a nice feature. Come with a drill bit, have a little stop, got a little screw that you can use to set your depth. So the way you set it up is you just measure your dowel. So this is a 2-inch dowel. And then I just drop my drill bit in there, and I let the drill bit stick out just about a 1/16 more than half the length of my dowel. And I tighten the screw, and this thing is set. So there you have it. You can just take this jig and you can do all kinds of joints. Let me show you how this works in real time. So I'm going to take this piece here and I'm going to mark it. I'm going to mark it here. I'm going to take this piece, drop it in, put my jig right up to the line, and I'm going to put it in my vise. I'm going to take a squeeze clamp. I find the squeeze clamps work much better than the F-style clamps because I don't have to, screw the spindle in. Just tighten it down nice and tight. Drop my drill bit in the guide. Then I get it up to full speed. Drop it in all the way. Once again, drop it in, then turn it on. Get up to full speed. Good to go. This piece is done. So then I go to my side, my edge piece, and I drop my drill jig, line it up with the line. This is where a vise comes in real handy. You can clamp it to your bench and then use an F clamp, but I clamp it down nice and tight, drop it in the hole, go in, drop it in, drop it in. Okay, so now what I have is I have a joint that I can line up. Oh, I got the wrong one here. And then I can, both faces, drop it in, it's flush. That is a real simple way to do a joint. So let me show you another application for the jig that I think is really pretty cool, and that is if I want to do an offset. So like this is an offset that I like to do like on a table or a chair. And so the only way to do that, if I just use a jig like it is, it'll come out flush. So what I do is I take the jig apart and I install a little spacer between the fence and the body, and then that will give me this offset. It'll give me a little larger distance here on the leg of the table. And then when I take the jig out and I drill the other piece, then it'll give me that nice offset. So what I do though is we got to be careful with this. When you take this apart, there's a little bit of play in this fence relative to the body. There's a little play there. So when you put it back together, when you put your spacer, you gotta lay this flat against the surface and then tighten this thing down, and then that will align the fence to the body, and that will give you a nice offset. Another thing that I like to do that's pretty interesting is that I made this little fence. It's a little magnetic fence that hooks onto the side of the jig so that I don't even have to measure. I don't even have to measure for my center line. I can just clip this on here, and then my piece registers the exact distance from the edge of the body. So that's pretty nice. And it's magnetic, so I can flip it to either side, because you've got to flip it to either side to get it to work. So what I do is I'll take two parts. Let's say I have these two parts here. I want it to be flush. This works really well if you want your parts to be flush on one side. And then I'll mark each corner, the corner that needs to register. See, I need to register this distance away from the fence, and I need to register this distance away from the fence. So I'll put an X here, and the edge, the part that needs to register against the body. And then I'll take my body and I'll put it here. I'll put my fence here. And then I'll drill this part. I'll clamp it, drill these two holes. Then I register this guy, and this one has to come here like this. The sentinel here it is like this. I register here. I register against there, against that one. I drill my two holes, and then when I put this thing together, these two parts will be flush, which is really nice. So then no measuring. It's flush here, it's flush here. So this little fence saves me a lot of time. It's very simple to make. These magnets are 3/8 diameter, 1/2 inch long. I think I drilled a 3/8 hole and just friction fit them in there. I put a little shelf in here so I can step it in there, and it kind of stops. That works real well. Another jig you can do, if you want, you can make a jig that actually holds the, you can take this piece out of the middle here, and you can use it to drill freehand, or not freehand, but you can use it to drill in other configurations. So I could take it here, and I could two-sided tape it to this thing here. I could two-sided tape it here, and then I could actually place a board underneath here, and I could drill holes in this orientation. So I could attach a piece like this. You could also set it up, if you made another jig, you could do it like that, and you could hook two pieces together like this. So the uses for this is not limitless, but there's a whole bunch of different uses that you can apply in your furniture making. And these things are really dirt cheap. So pick these up. These dual hole doweling jigs, they come with a drill bit and a stop and an Allen wrench. Pick them up, taytools.com.